Hello and welcome to Unclouded, the Agentic AI FinOps Podcast by Cloudgov.ai. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist. Thank you so much for joining us on our first episode. I'm really excited about this show, and I'm really excited about our first guest. I'm joined by Lars Kielhorn, a CIO who's led digital transformations across pharma, private equity, and even Formula One. He's the president of Sim New York Metro and a lifelong believer in the power of technology to change how organizations think, act, and perform. Lars, welcome. Great to have you.
I'm so excited to be here, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to start here because this was fascinating to me. I grew up on racing. My dad worked in the industry. He
Yeah.
was mostly NASCAR and IndyCar, but I definitely remember him getting up early on Sunday mornings watching Formula One races. So I'm actually still a big fan. I'm curious, how did you come to work with the Williams F1 team, and what was your role there?
So Dorlton Capital, I was their CIO, and as a part of that role was also to provide shared services to the portfolio companies that Dorlton Capital owned. And one unexpected day, I got kind of a call from one of the due diligence people inside and said, you know what, I've got a couple of questions regarding buying a Formula One team and what you think we should look out for in technology. And
That's a
that
big question.
before, yes, exactly. And so while I'm familiar with Formula One, certainly was not an expert in it, but kind of put myself into the shoes, thought about it, about data, real-time data, the massive amounts of data that you would get in, not optimal places like a racetrack because they can be wherever they are. And so I started working on that, and, a couple of weeks later, we bought Williams Racing, as Dorlton Capital. And after that, I had the real pleasure and honor to work with the Williams Racing team on implementing technology with and for them over the course of 2 years. And I thought I knew a little bit about racing before that, and I really learned a lot of this fascinating world of Formula One and had the real pleasure of really working with great people there and helping them implement their technology to bring the team further ahead. And if you are a fan of Formula One racing, you would see that this season actually they're doing, compared to all the previous seasons, quite well. And I think not the only one, but one part of that journey that helped there is certainly the implementation of technology and leveraging technology in a more comprehensive way.
Yeah, I am a big fan, and they have struggled in recent years, but they are definitely looking up. This has been a good year for them. They've got a couple of good drivers in Albon and Sainz, so I'm excited about it. Williams was once a powerhouse, and so you believe like the data insights and stuff like that could be a part of the reason for the turnaround.
Certainly, I left Dorlton about 2 years ago, so I'm not up to date with the latest developments in full disclosure. But as close as I work with them, I absolutely believe that that's part of it. And it really is around integrating workflows and systems. And we had just at that point in time touched the surface of AI and ML. I'm sure in the meantime they have progressed on that because there's enormous amounts of data, enormous amounts of patterns that you can see in racing, and to correlate those two and have a iterative cycle of improvement using AI ML. Formula One is with amounts of data and the complexity that comes with it. AI is uniquely really suited to bring improvements to a car and have faster iteration cycles and uncover things that you as a human, because of the breadth of data, might not as easily uncover.
Yeah, and certainly in Formula One there is no shortage of data, no shortage of analytics, no shortage of telemetry. Like there's so much going on in there. Most casual fans have no idea just how deep they go with that.
I think that's a key point, that whoever is not familiar with Formula One, specifically because it's kind of the Premier League, so to speak, of
Sure.
racing, is it's not just about going around on circuits in circles. There is so much information, data, and strategy that goes into every step, and all of that is data driven and systems driven. Not even to talk about manufacturing the car, and before you know, you had a plan to build a new front wing and the car crashes. What then? So now you put that on the back burner, you got to get some replacement parts. So
Right.
that kind of volatility is also something I think that people don't appreciate in what it takes to keep two cars running on a circuit where, more often than not, including the last race, you got some crashes.
Yep. That's an interesting point. I never thought of it like that, as far as just the, having to pivot so quickly, and when you're trying to like use your data and do something with it, and then you crash or something happens or a motor blows or whatever it is. I guess that doesn't happen as much as it used to, but it's having to pivot quickly. That's definitely interesting. Let's pivot to speaking of pivoting. Let's pivot to some FinOps talk. I'm excited to talk to you about this. With Agentic AI coming around, there's kind of a new era of FinOps. And, I feel like it used to be about looking backward at cloud bills and whatnot. And now when you have Agentic AI, you have systems that can think and decide and act on their own. How do you see this transforming how organizations manage their cloud costs and make financial decisions in real time?
So I think cloud is an incredible blessing. I'm going to start with the cloud itself.
Okay.
At Dorlton Capital, where we worked, we actually did not operate a single physical server. We're all cloud. And the beauty of that is that you can ramp up quickly. You can deploy resources as you need it. And particularly if you're building things from scratch, if you're building out capabilities, it is incredible because of the ease to ramp up. The flip side, and now we're getting to FinOps, as easy as it is to ramp up, as easy it is to have enormous amount of costs that you need to manage. And sometimes that's justified and sometimes that's not. And what you see is that, of course, naturally, the cloud providers will make it very easy for you to spin up resources. You want a development server, you want, expand production capacity. And that's a very easy process. What is harder is then to optimize the spend. Do you really need that? Is this the right? Is this on the right schedule? And that is the challenge of cost containment. And I saw this as I was building, the technology for Dorlton Capital and portfolio companies. It was 10x, 20x that we grew the technology footprint. And so at some point in time, I need to be able to manage that. I need to be able to on an ongoing basis optimize. And that's also where Cloudgov came in. And this is how I first got exposed to Cloudgov as a new provider. I was looking for help to really manage that spend. And that's a couple of years ago, before ChatGPT and whatever completely took over. So it was a more I would say it's a more subdued environment, optimistic, but it didn't have quite the hype that it has today.
Right.
And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to get somebody or provider that helps me with it that is independent of the cloud provider. I didn't want to have like the fox in the hen house kind of thing, if you think about it, right? I wanted to have an independent provider that can go across various footprints, be it Azure, be it Snowflake, be it GCP, all of that. And at the same time, knowing as much as I knew about AI and machine learning, I felt that pattern recognition, what are optimized patterns for usage, and extracting that. AI and ML would be extremely good at doing that if there's a product that's kind of geared towards that. So that's kind of the thing. At first, understanding what you do. What has since happened with the agentic piece of it is really then making this into a call for action. So what am I going to do with it? A lot of the first step is understanding what you do, what you have. How is there opportunities even to optimize your spend and find where you're maybe over or under resourced, and how do you translate it into dollars? The second piece is really then actually making it happen, right? Because there's one thing to have all the data, and I'm sure a lot of people have the situation where there's a lot of data in front of them. If you had all the time to act on it, you could actually do something, because all the knowledge in this FinOps space does not help you unless you do something about it.
If it just sits there, yeah. If it's just sitting there, you're like, whoa, cool data.
Exactly. No, knowledge is the first step. action is number two, actionable things. And now with agentic AI, you pair the ability to understand the pricing model of the cloud providers, right? And that's one piece. Pair that against your usage patterns, right? And out of that, extract knowledge of actionable items. And now agentic AI comes in and say, hey, you know what? If I'm not just going to give you visibility, I'm giving you a course for action. And initially, it was more like, here are some scripts, right? Here are some scripts that you can do to ramp up or ramp down some resources. And I think that's extremely useful, and particularly since it was incorporated into ticket systems like Jira. Because as a mature organization, everything should be ticket driven. So you have to have that type of integration, that whatever action comes out has a audit trail, has somebody assigned who is responsible to it, and you also track completion. Mm-hmm. And so now we're in that stage where you already have initiated that. And then the next step that you're going through right now is, once you have built some confidence, is to take the human more and more out of the loop, right? You still have a human into the loop, and I still think you should do this for critical resources. Initially, there's a learning curve, but the route is clear as the reliability of the recommendations for actions improve, and as your confidence, which you have to have over time, improves, you can take the human more out of the loop and still get the right results. And that's kind of, I think, what the agentic AI and Cloudgov does, is really this marrying of information with action, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What would a truly self-optimizing cloud environment look like, you think?
I think there's still always there is a component, I'm going to call it, there's in terms of new capabilities, because first you have to do something new. I think there is, at least for the foreseeable future, there is this where you have the step of saying, hey, what am I supposed to roll out a new system? Is there anything else? So that one, I think, at least in the near term, and long midterm, I think a lot more can be done, with AI. But in the near term, there's this human component to still translate. Here is a business requirement. I need to kind of, spin up some resources. Now, AI will also already be able to help you exactly, say what it means in some capacity more and more, right? I mean, kind of, how many resources do you think you're gonna need? What kind of resources are there? And then once you have that, then you get into this operational mode. And I think there AI is, at the moment, the step to go to AI without human in the loop is a little smaller, right? But you then really say, hey, now it's running. Tell me if you're reaching capacity. Tell me whether I have a production environment that sits idle for about 29 days a month, right? And by the way, it only comes up right now. I notice, even though you didn't tell me, I notice it comes up typically in the second and the fourth Monday, because that's your sprint cycle, whatever. Right. Right. Yeah. And it will able to tell you that, and based on that, make a recommendation. I think that's the beauty. In the past, you would have to tell it a lot more. I think what AI is able to do, to look at and observe, and without you being explicit about it, making recommendations. And I think that's the piece that is good, because infrastructure teams, they're all always under-resourced most of the time, right? And so these type of things fall into the category of important but not urgent. Right, and that this is the thing where Cloudgov and will help, because they're typically running to put out a fire somewhere that still in this modern world still always happens somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And what they may have had on their agenda for that afternoon to go and look through the resources that are there and figuring out what's maybe a little bit over-resourced, or maybe in some areas where it's under-resourced, right? That typically falls a little bit on the wayside, and the over-resourced even more, because under-resourced, eventually somebody will complain, right? It's not running fast enough. We don't have the response time, or something's not working. Over-resourced, nobody notices.
Yeah.
Right? It works. Yeah. It works. It's fine. And so that's the piece where it's even more important that you have the tools that allow you to make that job as easy as possible, not having to do the research, not maybe even having to do the action. Start maybe with certainly reviewing it until you have confidence, but at some point in time you may have enough confidence to say, you know what, I'll let the system run, particularly if it's not critical systems, because that's where you're going to start. You're going to start with production systems or test systems. So not great if it's down, but you're not immediately affecting revenue, so to speak.
Yeah. Right? It's not crippling.
Yeah, it's not crippling.
So what do you think stops teams from acting, even when they know the waste exists? Is it a time thing, a resource thing?
It is a combination of both. I mean, I generally find particularly good infrastructure engineers, they kind of even understand the charging model, maybe not in all its nuances, but it could certainly make some headway. They may not get it all because the charging models constantly change. But they would be getting something. I think the biggest piece is really the constraint for time, and the urgent, winning over the important, the operational drag, I call it, right? And so what even the I would say relative in general terms, relatively new discipline of FinOps in that way, right? Nobody talked about FinOps 10 or 15 years ago, right?
No.
was really the recognition of that you need to manage that explicitly. Now, if you have a larger organization, maybe you're able to devote somebody explicitly for that purpose, right? So you may be, and you have to make a case, you may be. So there you might get, some dedicated individual, and therefore get some better traction because that's their job, that's their priority. But in more, I'm going to say, heterogeneous environments and the smaller teams, you're not typically, at least when I was there, you would not get a dedicated FinOps person, right? So it is the people who are running and managing and understanding the resources that then, in essence, also are kind of as a task to work on cost control. But again, by heart, they're infrastructure engineers. They got to make sure that everything's up and running, that nothing's down, that all the customers happy, that the new projects are all on time, and so that takes away. Now, I do believe, as I said, that the AI tools being fed the also constantly changing infrastructure, cloud cost structure, right? For each product and service that you do. It is a challenge, right? It is a challenge. So that's kind of the second piece that, of course, who wants to, read through, the product catalog of AWS or Azure every week or every other week to make sure what tweaks you can make and how things change, right? And
right.
And of course, in this world, it is, a little bit like, I compare it to like my cable bill in the olden days. I'm a cord cutter, but I think we're all still familiar with it. The thing is like, hey, it's only $20 a month.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, totally. You're like, wait a minute, what? Why is my bill $85?
Why is my bill $85? Right? Exactly.
Totally.
And that is to some degree, and understandably, so that's not a judgment call. That's just a business practice call on the cloud provider.
Sure.
That's certainly what's happening there as well. It's often, distributed. So I'll give you an example from my own company. We have Snowflake for a data warehouse, and so we had data scientists and so on, and write some queries and so on, and suddenly we found out like, oh, the bill has increased, right, for Snowflake, and that's just the way the code was written in terms of the number of accesses and how it was accessed the data. It was not a necessity. It was just if you don't know that it has a significant cost impact, you just don't program towards it when you do your queries, right? And that's the kind of thing. Like, just I never had to deal with this. I'm supposed to produce data. I don't know the relationship to the cost comes out. And so before you find out, a month or two later, you look at the bill and like, why is this so high? And then you start looking at it, and this is not the human, right? A month later, too, you just notice because it was so significant.
Right. Yeah. Just
that
because it shocked you. Yeah.
It got caught even the human eye, so to speak, right? And it was something that was easily fixed. It had no impact on the data availability and quality. It's just a matter of not optimizing it towards cloud spend, just not being an objective and knowledge of the person who in essence programmed those queries. And that's the big ones. And so thank God we caught it, but. In relative terms, but there's a gazillion smaller ones that you will not easily notice.
Yeah. And what do you think about, if the cloud can protect itself, if it can automatically shut down unused systems, or your specific cloud, I should say, you can shut down unused systems, block risky deployments, manage costs. Are we close to this real-time self-healing kind of guardrail?
I think we are. I do think we are. Yes, I do think we are.
Okay. How close?
I think products like Cloudgov are kind of, I think that are close. I think what we have to overcome is proving, right? Real life proving and making sure that the reliability is there, right? You get building that confidence, and then making the decision to take out the human, right? That's and this is step one and step two. And again, this is not an all or nothing, right? This may be gradually and so on. And so I think
because people are gonna be a little nervous, right? That's gonna be a nervous kind of situation.
As much as I believe in this, right? In concept, and at the end of the day, it's still show me. Right? Yep. Because you as a CIO, you're next in the news, so to speak, that if something doesn't work and goes haywire, and you've deployed these solutions, and for whatever reason there is a bug or something that's not done, you're rightfully responsible for. And that's a good thing, because you don't want to take unnecessary risks. So I'm not complaining. I think that's that kind of somebody who like me who loves the opportunity to innovate. Sometimes has to have a little bit of a brake paddle, just a little bit here and there. Like, hold on. Yep. It's great in concept, but can it deliver in reality? And and I think Cloudgov over the last couple of years, because I've worked with Cloudgov for a couple of years, have come a long way in that confidence curve, so to speak, and really honed the product, and in that way that it's I'm going to call it confidence instilling, if that makes sense.
So obviously, cloud is just one piece of this modern spend. We've got AI infrastructure, SaaS, data platforms, just lots of stuff going on here. How do you see FinOps expanding to manage this broader technology economy?
Kind of the funny thing is, right? We all can see the writing on the wall. Meaning the new exploding spend is AI, and obviously there's pricing models behind AI, and so what was the cloud spend, in the past, so to speak, right? I guess infrastructure as a service, to be more precise. Now, the next significant spend that needs to be controlled is really around AI. So the funny thing is, now we're going to have AI help us curb AI spend or manage AI spend properly.
That's a good point.
That's I think where we're heading in terms of where's the big cost block that was on nobody's radar, right?
Because we're all just adjusting on the fly here,
right? We're all seeing it, right? And we're early stage as well in that commercialization, I'm going to say, right? That we don't really know where it's heading, because if you look at the investments that companies like OpenAI make, it's sometimes somewhere there's got to be the return on investment and the revenue models, and so that's that. And how much of this is other sources? I'm no expert in this, but other sources where just like search engine optimization, it's prompt results optimization. If you take that Is part of that to get products and so on, in front of people using AI, and how much revenue that would generate versus how much you're going to do through subscriptions. That I think has to still sort out, but all we know is that the massive investments in AI that have been made certainly are not, at least to my knowledge, will be made up by the revenue that's currently generated. That's all about future revenue. And so where I'm going with this is, now let's think of, whatever part of that remains subscription based, so to speak. That's the part, of course, then that's kind of falls in conceptually a similar category than you have for cloud spend or SaaS spend. And so tools like Cloudgov.ai and others are able to help that spend as the next piece. And how big that will be really a little bit is on that balance between subscription-based revenue versus other revenue sources that you can generate through through selling AI products.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can feel your excitement about it. You can tell you're into this. You can tell you're jazzed up about it and all that. So if we fast forward a few years, in your opinion, like, what's your ideal FinOps future once AI kind of takes over the heavy lifting, which we kind of all assume it will?
Yeah, I think overall in terms of FinOps, I think there's the two sides to it, right? There is the monetary side to manage, and there's the other side is like, what do I need? What products, what services do I need?
Yeah, what do I need to do with this?
Right, exactly. What do I need to do with it? And I think you will get a full cycle, right, from the deployment or definition requirements in the old-fashioned world called requirements gatherings, to spin up and then eventually spin down. So the entire life cycle. And I think you should, or at least I would always assume that I want to have an independent party doing this for me across, also cloud provider independent. So, but the question for you is, like, you will have, Google Cloud, Azure, whatever, Oracle, whatever, and maybe others who would OpenAI products as selling their maybe service independently, and it will be this, management of this entire life cycle. So go from I tell it what I need in a way, almost in natural language, right, in a way. And that starts to tell me what I need from the start, right, and transcribe that into a set of products and services I need to purchase. And Ideal tells me if you do it on Google, it costs X. If you do it in Azure, it costs Y, right? So you spin it up in on the best cloud. You manage it through its life cycle, and then you, in essence, spin it down at the end. Doing that is mostly agentic. Will be a blessing. It will fundamentally change what we as technology leaders have to manage. And I think and maybe it worries people, but it doesn't worry me. But it means your job is going to be enormously different, right? I mean, in the old world where I started to grow up, it was all about physical servers and building data centers, and now now I don't need anybody to do any wiring in a data center. I just take whatever cloud users I want to spin it up. So that's gone. But you're right. In today's world, you still need a good infrastructure engineer that tells you, here are the products, here's the sizing, here's the, the different levels of, RPO or, recovery point objectives and so on, to do all of that. And the next thing is really a infrastructure, I don't know what the title is, somebody who knows on how to ask the right questions. That will not go away. Even with AI, still somebody needs to provide some guidance in the direction. And it's going to be broader and broader the better they get, right? Sure. Less focused on details, but there's still going to be some sort of, I'm going to call oversight. I don't really like that term, but oversight that make sure it's generally going the right direction, even though the level at which you have to operate, and the details you have to know are going to get less and less important because AI will be able to do that. And then from that,
got to have the human in the loop. The human in the loop, right?
Human in the loop, yeah. And but there's going to be most of it you'll be taken out, right? And all the details will be taken out. It's just like you don't need a cabling guy if you have the cloud infrastructure. You just don't. That level of detail is gone. And just extrapolate that. And you don't know. It will tell you what sizing it is. It will tell you tell you what products to choose. It will tell you integration points. It will, all of those things it will do right, because AI is good at that type of, or ML actually, to be more specific, is good at this type of pattern recognition, and from that drawing the right conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Is there any one particular FinOps process that you would just like to see automated forever? Just, this is done now. This is automated.
The entire process, right? Ideally is what we're talking about right now. I have something, I'm running it. Help me optimize it.
Right. Okay.
I want the entire lifecycle done. Help me the cheapest way to meet my requirements and spin it up in the right service provider. Again, service provider independent. Not hooked to AWS or Azure or anything. Like you tell me, if I want these requirements, I want to do this in this broader context, go to provider X, spin it up the right way, manage it all the way, and then go down. So I think what I'm saying is, I think we will have to, the separation of FinOps versus infrastructure operations will merge. It's not going to be two separate things. It's just coming together. That's actually maybe the quintessence of what I'm saying here is really like, so we have FinOps and we have infrastructure operations. I think in the era of AI and capabilities of AI, these will be products that will merge to do that. And yet I do see it has to be separate. It can't be, if you want to have the real true product, it can't be AWS, it can't be Azure, it can't be GCP, because they're tilted to their solution. So you need an independent solution, just like Cloudgov, that goes across all of them and gives you the best results across all of them, and not just geared to selling and optimizing the product of one company.
Right. Yeah. Instead of it being just sort of just part of whatever one that's trying to get your business, you're talking about across all platforms.
Yes. But infrastructure operations in FinOps, I don't think will be called out separately. That would be my prediction.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. Well, all right, Lars, I'm gonna put you on the spot here for a second. It's time for our quick Cloudfire rapid fire round. All right. I'm gonna start a sentence. I want you to finish it for me. Okay. All right. FinOps becomes truly autonomous when
we start having enough confidence to take us out as humans.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The technology is almost there. We just need to be comfortable with it, right?
Confidence, yes.
Okay. I like that. All right. The biggest myth about cloud cost optimization is
that people will do this automatically when they don't have a designated job to do this as their primary responsibility.
Give me one word to describe the future of FinOps.
Autonomous.
Autonomous. All right. Yeah, that's pretty easy, I suppose, considering our entire conversation. All right. Well, Lars Kielhorn, thank you so much for joining. If anybody's curious about getting your take on anything else, what's a good way to reach out to you?
Probably the easiest, just go through to my LinkedIn page.
LinkedIn?
That's probably the easiest way. I am regularly on LinkedIn, so that's really a good message me.
Okay.
And, my profile is it's just Lars.Kielhorn. I was one of the first, I think, 100,000 LinkedIn users ever.
Really? Oh, that's a little
back,
pat on the back.
Don't put me exactly 2003 or something like that, for 2004, whatever it was. Nobody was on LinkedIn.
You're early. Either way, you were early.
Nobody was on LinkedIn. Nobody knew what LinkedIn was. But
yeah. Awesome. All right, Lars. Well, thanks again. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to staying in touch, and hopefully we'll have you on again.
And thank you, Kevin, for having me, and I really enjoyed my time in the interview with you. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us on our first episode of Unclouded. If today's conversation got you thinking about how to make your FinOps truly self-driving, check out Cloudgov.ai, where Agentic AI turns cloud cost management into autonomous action. Especially if you're tired of legacy vendors that overpromise and underdeliver, it's time to move to a platform that actually evolves with you. Visit Cloudgov.ai and experience how constant innovation and AI-powered automation are redefining the future of FinOps. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and until next time, stay unclouded and stay curious.